gentlemen, do y'all recognize this instrument console? This is a Dodge Durango. Alright, now, I had to shut this down because I need to check a couple things I need to check before I run this thing. And one thing I need to check is the oil level. The complaint is oil leak, bad oil leak on the ground. And I looked under there before I got in it, and it is dripping oil. So I highly advise you, whoever working on the car, or any kind of car for that matter, that's in for oil leak, first thing you should do, ladies and gentlemen, is check the oil level, okay? You do not want to be responsible for any damage that may have occurred under your or in your possession. All right. So before I start this up and get out there, I'm gonna check the oil level. Now, like I say, oil leaks. This is a 3.6. A couple of things known to leak on the 3.6. All right. Everybody pretty much know the history, and on top of that, it's a first generation 3.6. Okay. We had a couple of issues with front timing cover. The oil filter adapter housing, mostly the oil filter adapter housing. Okay, now a couple of research was done by Chrysler on most of the warranty adapter housing that was returned, and what they found out was a lot of guys was over torquing the cap. Okay, there is a torque specs to that. When you change the oil, you should not just crank that thing down all the way, or you can crack it, because it is made of plastic, y'all. Keep that in mind. So you probably need to, if you're doing an oil change on a car with a 3.6, torque the oil filter cap down to proper specs, okay? Because that was some of the cars of the early built ones. Now, that adapter housing has since been redesigned. So, in other words, every one that I've put on since then have not come back. So, we're not putting on the same part that was put on from the factory, okay, when the car first came out, or when the 3.6 engine first showed up. All right, so all the ones we're putting on now are basically considered redesigned. Part 2, whatever you want to call it, maybe called reinforcement, or just, it's not the same. So bear that in mind. If you have one that's leaking oil, and I also highly suggest you start your oil leak diagnosis from the top. I mean, you can get a little peek under the bottom just to verify that it's leaking, but always start all your leaks from the highest point. And in this case, I'm likely start on the top. Like I said, I've already looked down and verified it is leaking. So I'm starting my diagnosis on the top. So what I want y'all to do is to hang out, hang tight. I'm going to go get some oil put in here and then drive it inside the shop. And we're going to proceed with our diagnosis, okay? So don't go anywhere, y'all. Hang tight. I'm going to go to a little break right quick, and I will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have this truck up in the air, and as you can see, oil leaking everywhere. Okay, in fact, it has leaked all on the ground. Now, before I drove this car in, I did check the oil level. There was enough oil in there to at least get me inside the shop, and that's what I highly recommend that you do before you even start the car up. If you're dealing with a complaint about oil leaks, first thing you should do is to check the oil level before you start the car up. You do not want to get blamed for anything you didn't do. You don't want to you don't want the engine to seize up in your possession, in other words. But yeah, this oil originates from the top. So always go to the car's highest point to see where the leak's coming from. All right, I had it running, oil just dripping down here. So that is coming from the oil filter adapter housing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let the car back down, and we're gonna look over a couple things up top. But yeah, this is real bad. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen one leak that bad. I've seen one leak coolant pretty bad, but that's what happened, man. This first generation oil filter adapter housing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hang with me. Let me let the car down. We're gonna go over some things on the top of the engine. Okay, so don't go anywhere. Stay right here with me. I'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back. I have the car back down. I have the hood open, and of course, as you can see now, what we want to look for is the the presence of oil, because this is a 3.6 and it has a known history of oil leaks right down the center of the engine. Let's take a look down here. And as you can see, yes, just as I figured, there's oil all down in here. So this oil filter adapter housing is likely leaking real badly from the back, and is that essentially just pouring down to the back on top of the transmission. So all that oil you see on top of the transmission is likely coming from this oil filter adapter housing. Okay, this is probably the first generation. Based on the design of this, it's likely this is the first generation. So we would need to get this replaced, okay, in order to stop the oil leaks. I'm not sure. Well, y'all know recalls are considered safety items, so it's obvious Chrysler don't deem this a safety issue. Depending on how you look at it, it can be considered a safety issue. Depends on how you look at it. And in this case, it pretty much is, because it's leaking and it's making its way to the exhaust. As you know, when oil hit the exhaust, bad things can happen. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is write up an estimate on a oil filter adapter housing. We're gonna change the oil, and I'm gonna look this car over and see if there's anything else it needs. But for now, you all saw all the oil leaks under the bottom, and it's likely coming from the oil filter adapter housing. I'm gonna check the cooling system. I'm gonna check everything over, but I just want to stay on point. The title of this video is oil leaking on this. This is a Durango with a 3.6 in it, and it had a nag transmission in it too. So that's where we stand, man. So y'all, thanks for hanging around, man. Thanks. Well, here we go. My parts finally got in, so I will essentially be replacing this bleeder valve. Okay, I think these have been extremely revised, a makeover, so to speak. Okay, they're made stronger, and the O-rings are of better material from what I read. Okay, but this was the source of my leak. Remember all the oil that was coming off the top of the transmission? It could fool you, man. Some people will misdiagnose that as a rear main seal, but like I said, because the oil leaks was higher than the transmission, you got to go to the highest point. All right, do not just assume a rear main seal leaking because you got oil around your transmission area. Okay, go to the highest source. And with this being a 3.3 or 3.6, and I know the history of it, I'm very aware on what could cause such a leak, and it is this oil filter adapter housing. All right, so what I'm gonna do is simple: replace it. All right, now I have a video already out on replacing one of these. I'm not gonna be able to film this total job, but y'all know the drill. The intake got to come off, the lower intake got to come off, then you would gain access to the oil filter adapter housing. From there, just take all the inverting torque bits off right here. Unplug all the connectors, remove the water hose, coolant hose, and then pick straight up. It's as simple as that. All right, guys, let's get this thing removed. Now, I already have the upper plenum off. Okay, I did not record it, but I have footage of removing the plenum. In fact, I'll link it at the top right. Okay. So we got the plenum off. Now we are we got the lower plenum off also. We are here at the oil filter adapter housing. As you can see, all the oil in the lower intake. That represents the oil can only come from one place at this point. And that is the oil cooler. All right. Now you can see a coolant hose going to this cooler. Okay, that is because this cooler uses coolant, all right, to heat and cool the oil. All right, so we will have to get that off. Now this cooler has 6 bolts, inverting torque bits holding it down. So once you get those off, you just simply lift it up. Now let me say something real quick, guys. Try and put a rag inside those intake ports. You don't want any kind of trash or oil falling down into the valves. All right, here's my old oil filter adapter housing. I got a new one in place. So what we can need to do right now is clean out these journals. All right. Now what I tend to use is my oil sucker. All right, I just simply put my sucker down there and try to suck as much oil out as possible. We got to get this cleaned up before we go back in with the new cooler. As you can see, I'm sucking most of it out. All right, these things can leak oil and coolant, guys.
So in fact, I'm gonna link a video on the top right to show you how one looked if it was leaking coolant. It could really trick you into thinking it's a blown head gasket, but it's not. Alright, so I'm getting this all cleaned up. Like I say, guys, use a rag. Use rags to cover those intake ports. You don't want any kind of trash going down in there. We was out of rags at the time, so I didn't have any, but I was extremely careful. Alright, and look, that O-ring right there, don't forget, guys, keep an eye out for that. They will stick. Alright, you don't want to double seal one. So clean up the transmission, and that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.